Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other, and today's episode is One Punch Man Season 1, Episode 9, Unyielding Justice. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened in this episode. So the episode begins with Genos beginning his attack on the Deep Sea King, and his attacks do kind of distract the Deep Sea King, who's wanting to kill all the civilians, but ultimately do minimal damage to him. And he also gives up his chance to do a lot of damage because he has to save a little girl who decided to yell out and attract the attention of the Deep Sea King. And the Deep Sea King spits acid at her, which Genos then takes, which ends up melting most of the machine that makes up his body. We then return to Saitama on the phone with the Hero Association, and they ultimately decide to use the opportunity to see how strong he truly is and give him the location of the fight. We then have Mumin Rider managing to arrive just as Genos is about to be destroyed, and he crashes his bike into him, and he does no damage, but he gives an inspirational speech while the onlookers cheer him on, but again is very quickly defeated because he's not strong. But he knows he's not strong, so he's not trying to boast he's strong and losing. He's just trying to buy time, which is very nice. And just as he is about to once again be defeated alongside Genos, Saitama arrives, and the Deep Sea King hits Saitama, and his head kind of bobbles a bit, but otherwise he doesn't move. And then once again he defeats the Deep Sea King with one punch. And Speedo Sound Sonic does arrive back to where he had been fighting, fully dressed with his weapons, but obviously the fight's over by this point, so that's just a fun little scene that they threw in. We then have, the people in the evacuation center cheering because they've been saved, and then some annoying little loser decides that he's going to say that he was entitled to being saved because taxpayers pay for the Hero Association. And so, who cares about these heroes that have all died? And if a C-class like Saitama can kill the Deep Sea King with one punch, then all those other heroes are worthless losers and not worth our time or our adoration. And when Saitama hears that the people are starting to be swayed by this ingrate's words, he decides to then say, wow, how great is it that they wore down this monster so that I could come and take all the credit, which then turns the crowd against him. But then the crowd does go back on the side of all of the other heroes who fought really hard and were defeated by a very strong enemy. And that, of course, is very nice, but it does again paint Saitama as, what the rumors have said, that he's a cheater, that he steals credit, things like that. We then have Genos and Saitama opening fan mail, and Genos has a huge pile. Saitama has a letter basically calling him out for being a cheater, one that says thanks, and then one from the association saying that he's made it up to the top of C rank. He then is brought in for an interview where it's revealed that if you reach the top of your class, you then have the opportunity to move up. And so Saitama is moved up to the B rank. And as he's heading home from his interview to increase his rank, we see that My Mask has been approached by Busho, who is basically showing him an image of Saitama, and My Mask is like, why are you showing me this? I'm only interested in people in class A because they share the same class as me. But then it's revealed that Saitama's the one who defeated the Deep Sea King, and My Mask is shown a video of Saitama's defeating him, but he does not look happy about that, though we don't get anything else. And then on the way home, Saitama stops for some noodles, and Mumin Rider is already there, and he offers to buy him a drink as he wasn't able to say everything he wanted to say in his letter. So the letter thanking Saitama actually came from Mumin Rider, which is very sweet. And then at the very post-credit scene, we get Shiba Bawa, who is apparently a seer, having some sort of fit as she sees that the Earth is in terrible danger. And now it's time that, now that we've been reminded about what happened, to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank on the mostly objective ranking, which uses set values, and then on the personal ranking, which uses opinion. So starting with our mostly objective rank values, we have so Shiba Bawa, I cannot remember fully if she is a single episode or multi-episode, but I feel like she never really is. She's the one who gives the prophecy that the world's, in terrible, terrible danger. I know that she did pass away, and I don't know if she passed away in the post-credit scene or whether she'll be seen very briefly in a flashback or in the next episode. But because whatever parts she has are extremely, extremely small, I decided to have her be a single episode supporting character, and that will be Shiba Bawa, 1 point. Then we have 2 points for our resolved battle, which is the Deep Sea King. And this is one of the first, if not the first, where it's taking multiple episodes to defeat the monster. So that is a compliment to the Deep Sea King. We next have 3 points for our multi-season supporting character growth. And for this, I think that's Mumin Rider. We've met him before. This time we see his attacks, the Crash, Justice Tackle. And he gives that speech about how, he knows that he's weak, that he cannot win. But if it means that one more person can live, then he's going to give it his all to fight because he's a hero. Blah, blah, blah. Worth 3 points. 4 points, of course, is our multi-season main character growth, which I feel is Saitama choosing to give away credit for his kill and save the other heroes' reputations while also ruining his own, and taking that hit willingly by his own will because he understands the importance of what heroes mean to the people and doesn't want that to be decreased. Also, he moves up to B rank, which is a big accomplishment because it means now that there are no more weekly hero quotas, and that was something that he was having some trouble with, or didn't like, rather. And that then brings our positive points up to 10 points for the episode. However, I did feel that there were some negatives. -1 was -2, and that's for that crowd, not the crowd, sorry, that one guy in the crowd who decided to come out and start disparaging the people who saved him because he felt entitled to being saved, which I don't think he was. I mean, ultimately, if a person feels that they can't save you, they're free to run away, and if you're weak, you can't do nothing about it. So he should be grateful, but instead of being grateful, he's trying to turn an entire crowd of people against the other people. And he could have also just shut up, but instead he had to go ahead and make his speech and try to turn everyone against him. And it's like one of those people that, like, one person ruins it for everybody, and it's just ick. Nobody likes those people. The people who are those people, I don't know why they act, because nobody likes you. But terrible, terrible, terrible behavior. A horrible person. Very icky. -2 points. And then last we have -3 points. And for me, this is a failed emotional impact. I feel like there were certain points within this episode where they were trying to give a feeling of inspiration to people. Like, when Mumin Rider arrives and he's giving, his speech about what it means to be a hero, and even though he's weak, he's going to stand up. I feel like we were supposed to feel something or gain something from that. I didn't. And then also with the crowd, while they were yelling and, trying to encourage Moomin Rider, who himself said he is not strong enough to defeat this guy, yelling at him that you can defeat him, we're going to encourage you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, he said he wasn't strong enough. Like, why are you not running away right now? You dum-dums. But either way, the crowd encouragement also kind of fell flat because, like I said, they should have been running away, those dum-dums. And again, Moomin Rider's speech, I feel like it was inspirational, but I just didn't feel it. Probably because he wasn't strong enough to actually make a difference. Though within his speech, he did say he was weak, so I'm giving him, bonus points for that. That's why he got the character growth. Plot positive points, but also, you know, if he's taking on this being he knows he can't defeat that's stronger than him, he's doing so to give the people a chance to run away, and then they're throwing that back in his face by not running away and just standing there making making calls where it's like he said he could not defeat this monster. Why are you still there? It's not inspirational, it's a lack of logic. That's a nice way to put it. Either way, that brings us to a 5 out of 10 for this episode. And that brings our series ranking so far to The Strongest Man, The Lone Cyborg, The Modern Ninja, The Ultimate Master, The Terrifying City, The Ultimate Disciple, The Obsessive Scientist, The Deep Sea King, and then this episode in ninth, Unyielding Justice. We then come to the season rankings so far. For my personal ranking, and I wasn't overly positive about this episode, if we're being honest. I mean, I remember my first thought when the episode started was Genos is so lucky that he is a machine because he gets like in one minor punch that does minor damage, and then his arm is ripped off like almost immediately. And this isn't new because in other episodes as well, his arm was ripped off. His body parts have been ripped off. And it's like if you were not a machine, boy oh boy, would you have been dead by now. So he is very lucky that he is a cyborg because he loses limbs like it's nobody's business. Even with the acid attack, I mean, he obviously felt no pain because he's a cyborg, it's all machine. But at the same time, you literally are left with like barely your skeleton left. So there's that. Then there was the fact that the whole reason he got hit with acid in the first place is because a child decided to open their mouth and yell and got an acid attack in response to that, which then Geno sacrificed himself to stop. But then later on in the episode, like not even very long after that, there's this like little boy child who's also decides to start yelling, which is what sets off the rest of the crowd. And I was just sitting there like, mother, control your kid. Did you not see that that little girl almost got splashed with acid and melted because she didn't keep her mouth shut? Why are you letting your child yell and attract this monster's attention? You are the mother, you should be putting a hand over their mouth to quiet them because they could get shot with acid. We've already had a precedent set with that first little girl. Don't let your baby cry out and make a scene unless you want them to be melted. But the mother's just like standing there doing nothing, and it's like terrible parenting, terrible parenting. I mean, he does get the crowd going, so I mean that's good. At least then the tension's taken off the kid. But I still feel like it shouldn't have had to get to that point because mother really shouldn't have let her kid cry when a previous kid who was yelling out earlier almost got melted for it. I just felt that that was bad parenting. Then I do like the bit of comedy that Sonic came back fully dressed after everything was done. And it's like, you escaped from prison, why did you even come back? you're a prisoner. You could get sent back to prison. Now you're free. Why are you coming back to the scene of the crime? Or, well, not his crime, but the scene of the fight with all your weapons and stuff. But nobody was around. It was deserted, so at least he's probably still free. Because I do know that he makes frequent little appearances. And then, honestly, the guy in the crowd, like I said, I despise him. But at the same time, some of the things that he was saying them in a bad way, but he wasn't necessarily wrong. It's like, why are the heroes taking on. Like, so here's the thing. I have no problem with hero behavior, provided you have the skill and strength necessary to accomplish what you are setting out to do. And I don't mean like, it's a pretty even fight, it could go either way. I mean, like, if you are clearly, obviously, and completely outmatched, what are you doing fighting like this monster? It's asking to die. And then like if somebody looks down on you for that, it's like, well, you knew you couldn't defeat them. Like Mumen Rider, I know it was meant to be inspirational, the weakling taking on the larger foe, but at the same time, it's like you have no chance. You're literally going to die for nothing, having accomplished nothing. The people you are trying to save aren't being appreciative and running away. They are staying there to watch you die. Maybe you don't do that. Like logic would dictate, don't do that. Of course, emotion doesn't necessarily bow to logic, and as a result of that, obviously it was meant to be inspirational. I didn't find the inspiration in it. I just thought, you dum dum. But at the same time, I understand why other people might have gained some inspiration from it. But basically, that guy was basically saying, like, these are heroes. They register for the association. They're classed a certain way. Why are they coming out and fighting this? They all got defeated. How pathetic. And it's like, I don't agree with the way that you're saying things, but at the same time, I do think that maybe they should have been a bit more mindful. Now, in the case of the ones that were in the evacuation shelter, I don't blame them because they were mindful. And with Stinger, again, he did take out 10 before he was defeated by one that was stronger. So at the time that he was fighting, it was within reason for him to think he could have had a chance. You know what? Just scratch what I was just saying because really he was bullshitting. Because now when I think about it, Stinger, he did take on opponents that were within his range. He was able to defeat 10. He just wasn't able to defeat the big boss, and that's reasonable in my opinion. He wasn't that like he wasn't like an S tier, S rank, S class hero. So he should not have been looked down on by the crowd because he was doing what he was supposed to. Lightning Max kind of got caught off guard. He was just kind of chilling on a water tower and, he was the one attacked. So good job on surviving that. And then the other heroes that were in the evacuation shelter, they knew they were outmatched. That's why they were in the evacuation shelter. And yet they still stood up when they had no other choice because that's what heroes do. So no, I changed my mind as I talked it out. That guy, no redemption. No redemption whatsoever. The only one he might have been right about was Mumen Rider, but then again, that was meant to be inspirational. So all that being said, I did give it a 6 out of 10. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great. There were certain parts that made me angry, but other parts that I enjoyed. And that brings us to then our ranking so far on the personal ranking with the ultimate master, the obsessive scientist, the deep sea king, the strongest man, the lone cyborg, the terrifying city, the modern ninja. This episode I put in 8th, Unyielding Justice, and then the Ultimate Disciple is currently in 9th. And that brings me to the series ranking so far on our mostly objective ranking. And season 1 so far has a score of 80 out of 120, and the personal ranking has a score of 66 out of 120. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Punch Man Season 1, Episode 9, Unyielding Justice. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.